Hello, welcome back to Suzerain. Let's go through some of these. So, Port of Lackman loses importance. I've seen these before. I may decide to sort of zoom through some of this information that we're getting here, just so that we can sort of push towards the new content that wasn't in the demo. Because I feel like, since the demo was free, I feel like a lot of people have played this part, right? One would imagine. Congratulations from PM Van Horten. I like these guys. They sound like the Dutch. Lack of investment, yeah, we'll have to deal with that. We have budget, we have wealth. Personal wealth. That was not a stat in the demo, I don't think. Interesting. Huh. That is very interesting. Maybe I'm wrong and it was, but I don't remember it being a personal stat. Also, wait, am I understanding this map correctly, but is this all territorial, international waters? And the border ends on, land? Probably would be messy to represent, I guess, sea, ocean borders and stuff. The map is beautiful, though. But let's go to actually address all the stuff. We have reports. Past urban expansions result in high levels of congestion in the city traffic, okay. We probably actually do have new things we have to deal with. General staff gathers. Swedish armed forces were presented in the meeting room that took place at Camp Strongarm with massive security measures. Chief of the Armed Forces Vulcan Kruger, that's him, made a public press statement highlighting the increasing chance of military confrontation in eastern Maricopa and requested support to strengthen the military. Yeah, we may actually have to do that, even though we didn't promise to. We do, at the very least, need to reserve one budget or whatever it is for healthcare, because that is something we promised. Let's do the current economic situation briefing. Simon Hall, Minister of Economy, Gus Manger, Minister of Rural Development, and Lilias Graf, Minister of the Interior. I've met these people before in the demo. Simon Hall, Gus Manger, and Lilias Graf are about to arrive at the White Room for our scheduled economy meeting. This was the room, the Maroon Palace, where all important meetings were held. Two assistants arrived first, carrying a heavy projector. They stood with it by the door, waiting for the ministers to enter. From the hallway, I heard Lilias Graf's voice. She was using the patient, almost motherly tone she so often took in heated arguments. Gus, do you really think that such an economically advanced area is in more need of investment than England? Lilias, my interior minister, strode in. She was clad in shades of brown and beige. The only spot of color, a bright yellow nearest star on her necklace. Gus followed close behind. Don't know what the nearest star is. Don't be an idiot, Lilias. What about the unemployment crisis in the greater Holsund and Gelsland regions are going through? These areas are our economic heartland. Gus curled his hands into fists. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development's temper hadn't changed since his days in the Alfonso administration, but neither had his reputation for getting things done. His far-reaching network of connections was unlike any other. Simon Hall quickly stepped in between the two ministers without looking at either of them. He cleared his throat. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. I'm very well and motivated, Mr. Rain. It seems our ministers are feeling the same. Yes. I can clearly see that. What was the discussion about? We were having a discussion about the infrastructure plans. If I may, I would like to talk to you about the... Simon interrupted. We will get there, Gus. No rush. First, I would like to conduct my economy presentation. Let's begin. Simon pulled a silk handkerchief out of his pocket and briefly wiped his glasses. My staff and I have comprehensively analyzed every aspect of... He was interrupted by a groan from one of the assistants by the door, both of whom were now visibly struggling to hold up the heavy projector. Oh, you can put that there. Pointed below the painting of President Sol. The assistants placed the projector next to the table and installed a white screen on the wall. Leave now. Thank you, and please leave now. The assistants left the cabinet room. I was reminded that Simon had never quite had a way with people. I kind of like him, actually, but his facility with numbers had made him the most sought-after economic specialist in Sordland. Simon started looking for his slides. He always carried documentation around with him. Wait. Simon, what happened to the new police station construction in Estud? While going through the briefcase, he paused for a moment to answer. It got stalled due to government property boundary issue. I have been meaning to look at it. I can take a look at that one. Estud needs all the security help it can get. Sure, more time for me to spend on analyses. Estud is... Oh. It's over here, yeah. This is a place with some issues, I think. His eyes glittered when he finally found the slides he was looking for. My slides! There have been some developments about the Swedish Wren losing further value today. we have been trying to stabilize it with the central bank. The recession of 51 put enormous pressures on the economy, resulting in the collapse of the value of our currency. The entire situation was a significant cause of concern for our administration. What would you like to do now? Or what would you like to know about the current economic situation? What's that GDP and debt situation? I can probably find this out easily. GDP is 310 billion Swedish yen, and the national debt is 427 billion. Not that bad, honestly. It's not great, but it's no US debt. It's still hard to fathom that we lost nearly 150 billion in wealth. The past 3 years were tough. What's unemployment and inflation? Unemployment has skyrocketed and is now at a staggering 16%, and the inflation is at a relative high of 7%. I'm pretty sure I don't mean to roast the United States, but I'm pretty sure the United States unemployment is higher than 16%, but that is probably also exacerbated by the current situation. And the inflation is at a relative high of 7%, which I know nothing about inflation. I won't pretend to. Unemployment is increasing. Crime and drug use, we need to get the people off the streets. The inflation isn't helping our average citizen either. What is the status of the recession? The economy has been in recession of about minus 6% in the past year. The average GDP has dropped from SR 15.454 per capita to SR 10.359 from 1951 to now. This administration's success depends on our ability to stop the recession. The sooner we can reach GDP growth, the better. I have all the information needed. Let's move on to the economic strategy. Simon scattered the paper stack in front of him in an orderly manner and took a final look at his notes before clearing his throat. As you can see, the situation is alarming, but not every thing is negative. The extensive privatization program of Alfonso left us a large budget surplus which we can use to stabilize the crisis. The primary subject we need to settle on is what general path we'll take in our term. Solonomics-based, Reaganomics, based nationalization. Okay, no, Solonomics is the opposite. And Alfonsonomics is the privatization, I guess. Happened in the 30s, and Alfonso's privatization began during the end of the 40s. What will our administration focus on? One of the main promises was to promote a planned economy to stop recession. To be frank, I still don't think this was a good idea. We shouldn't go back to Solonomics. It is the reason for the recession. Self-sufficiency will help us in tough times. Economic systems without regulation are bound to fail. That is true. Because, like, if you have a fully free, if you have a free market where it's all competition, everyone who, like, every idea that fails goes under, every business that fails goes under, then what's going to happen, as in every competition, is that one person is going to win. If that person is not regulated, that one person will then start to dominate everything and you'll have monopolization. Or you have issues where all those people who are losing, their businesses go under and the jobs of, their jobs disappear. That's why even though most countries in the world are like, we love the markets, they also aren't ideologically very, like, they aren't ideologically capitalist in the original sense of the word, because people know that sometimes the government does have to intervene, and that's why, the US and other countries subsidize so many of their important industries, and many of their industries, like, just straight up run off of government subsidies and aren't actually all that profitable. Like, the reason they work is because the government pays them money, like a lot of the military industrial complex and pharmaceutical industry and others. Now, that is, well, saying that they're not profitable is a misnomer, because they are, but they're profitable because of the subsidies. It means that they can absorb larger losses, and they can also reduce the amount that they actually have to put in to operate. But economic systems without regulation are bound to fall. I actually want to ask this: what are the consequences of the free market? There aren't many, but one could say that we are much more likely to be influenced by the world economy. The upswings of the world economy will reflect good on ours too. Yes, and then the global economy crashes and we go down with it. She seems like an economic nationalist. I'm not a big fan of economic nationalism. But... And, like, this idea that, like, the reason for divorcing yourself from the free market, which is not necessarily something you should do either, but the argument, like this whole like idea that the argument for divorcing yourself from the free market is to ensure national self-sufficiency. That's not my line of thinking on that. I think there are other reasons you should go, or you should try to like move away from a fully free market. You should have a regulated market, if anything. The structural problems of Solonomics were going to lead to a recession, according to the predictions at the time anyway. Either way, even if we pick one of the doctrines, we retain the option to make economic choices on a case-by-case basis, which is how you should do it. That's how everyone does it. That is, however, not recommended in my point of view. The last thing we need is a chaotic economic plan. Well, it's something we can both agree on, Lilius. There's another point, which has a direct impact on our economy: superpowers. We've done well not to align ourselves with any one of them. Economically speaking, an isolationist policy overall could only work if we were to reap the benefits of both spheres and their rivalry. This is kind of what I want to do. It's very dangerous to attempt, but still possible. We must, this is like what what the global south, as we call them, did during the Cold War. The quote-unquote unaligned nations who just reap the benefits of both. There's been this, like, there's this narrative in history that, you know, you had the Soviet Union and or the Socialist Bloc, or whatever you want to call them, the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc, the Capitalist Bloc, if you want to call them that, or the, you know, NATO countries or whatever. They were the two big, like, actors. They were the two big, like, movers and shakers. But it robs the quote-unquote unaligned nations of their agency, because they were affecting the foreign policy of these two blocks to an amazingly high degree. They knew what they were doing, and, you know, could take, like, or reap the benefits of relationships with both. We must be very cautious. There are schemes being devised about Swordsland. We cannot give in to their wants now or in the future, otherwise our country will turn into a pawn. Yes. Swordsland will not be controlled by any nations. Precisely my point. We will stand strong and show an example to the world. Hope we won't regret this. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Minister Vichy will be in charge of informing you on those types of foreign policy decisions. We must first decide on our economical or internal economic plan. Would a planned economy focus bring us stronger allies? Well, I mean, it's a binary choice. We have to choose one of them. I'm going to go with the planned economy, because that's what I promised. I have to. State planning and regulation both showed great success in the 30s. Well, it did in real life as well. Only for a limited time. Well, in Norway, that success continued. Only for a limited time, until even Tarkin Sol himself discovered the limits of the system. Slowdown began during his rule, remember? Would a planned economy focus bring us stronger allies? Would make the United Contana diplomatically look at our country in a more positive light. They are proponents of the planned economy, and Arcasia will not like it because they like the free market. Let's move on. What are your final thoughts, Mr. President? Critical institutions must remain in state control. We must be fully responsible in delivering services. Yes, 100%. We should look at opportunities like privatization to create financial resources. No. Market economy doesn't require as much guidance and could help us attract foreign capital. This is very true. Foreign direct investment is a big deal. It is hard to fully agree or disagree with these options. I mean, correct. I think critical institutions must remain in state control. We must be fully responsible for delivering services. I think that anything that is like considered a right, or something that is like considered a basic service, needs to be controlled by the people in one way or another. And the way to do that is to put it under the jurisdiction of your political system instead of an economic system. Few could be, and it wouldn't be negative, but either way you make these choices. So what will our general economic plan promote? Planned economy, as we promised. Not sure if we made the right decision here. Gus looked worried. Well, now that there is some clarity on which direction we are heading, I will work on a good plan accordingly. Thank you, Simon. Oh yeah, we should read the news. So these are kind of really cool. Each post, like most newspapers, have their own, like, their political leanings, their party loyalties. Some like parties, at least in this period, and periods preceding it in real life, were like party papers. In Norway, pretty much every paper that we read now was at one point a party paper, like the Evening Post, Aftenposten, which has a like this is like the New York Times, I guess, equivalent, but it's kind of like that. It used to be the Conservative Party's like paper, and you have the what is it? I think Dagbladet, is it? Used to be called the Social, like the daily paper used to be called the Social Democrat. It was the Labour Party's newspaper, and yeah, all this stuff. You have a newspaper right now called Klassekampen, which is like it's just called the Class Struggle, which is one of the most read newspapers in Norway. I think it's no longer officially affiliated with the Red Party, but I mean, you know where their sympathies lie. Red Party being our far left party, or our most far left. You also have the socialist left and stuff. But I'm not here to talk about exclusively Norwegian politics, but I do want to talk about these kinds of topics, because this is what I can provide that other people still can, but don't often do in YouTube videos, I think. It's like the only thing that I know. I'm not very good at many things. Rain spoke of change and hope. So let's try to suss out their like these guys leaning, like where they lean and stuff. Bring focus on reforms together. We will bring, yeah, this is just what happened. This seems like a Reuters, I think that's how to pronounce it, Reuters, like very like Telegraph newspaper that just tells you exactly what happened, more or less. So try to like strip it of any sort of bias, or not bias, because there is inherent bias in anything you do, because everything in and of itself is a political act. But there's a of course I'm making many big sweeping statements, and I'm sorry, but I don't have time to delve deeply into all of them. But completely lost my train of thought. Let's check Sortland today. Sortland's most sold newspaper have been planned behind closed doors. Shortly after the meeting that was also attended by President Rain, the Ministry of Economy has released a statement regarding the short-term economic plans, which included the promotion of a planned economy. So has been planned behind closed doors might be an indicator of their leanings, right? That's a negative connotation. New president has been sworn into office by the Chief Justice Orso Hawker, another great win for the USP and Anton Rain, who managed to get 37% of the general vote. First congratulations came from Kesaro Kibner of the National Front Party, the runner-up of the general vote. The PFJP didn't concede until the last minute, but the results were clear since several hours in. These guys are the progressives. These guys are the far-right party. And these guys are like the center-left progressive party. They are, yeah, left-leaning intellectuals, labor unions, stuff like that. White-collar workers, upper-middle classes, center-left political party, there you go. And these guys are the far-right. Party mainly followed an ethnic nationalist political agenda with aggressive and threatening campaigns throughout the 30s, which made it to be perceived as an extremist party, but later moderated its views under the leadership of Kesaro Kibner. Thousands of supporters have gathered in the streets of Oslo, chanting campaign slogans and whatnot. Yeah, not clear where these guys lie, but the radical, we know where they lie, and we know who the economists support. Freezing temperatures recorded. Warning of frostbite has been issued in the cities of southern Bergia. New Assembly against duty, head of the right-wing National Front parties in third place with just over 11%. Communist Party of Sortland and the Workers' Party of Bludia both won just below 10% of the vote. Sortlander Kommuniste Parti, and then you have Bludia Vorlarbeit Party. That is kind of cool. So these guys are a general left-wing, strong emphasis on participatory democracy, unions, minority rights, and egalitarianism. They sound kind of like our socialist left. These guys sound kind of like the Progress Party in Norway, and Communist Party Sortland, they are millennialist, so they are like the Norwegian Communist Party, which is basically defunct and doesn't really do anything. The party was established by a group of millennialist politicians, union leaders, and a number of activists who were previously persecuted during Tarkin Salt's term as president. It's a 10% election threshold in Sortland. Interesting. So we have 130 seats. Progressives have 70 seats. Or Freedom and Justice, rather. 70 seats. NFP, National Front Party, have 40, and the Independents have 10. The Radical, these guys are... I don't know if they are the party paper for these guys, but they are essentially... You know, they like the PFJP, and they really, really, really don't like the National Front Party. How many times will people fall for the same trap? We've seen this before with Colonel Saul, who has supposedly saved this country and brought stability in times of chaos. Yeah, they are critical of the USP. The Economist, they are very critical of... also, I think they like the National Front Party just because the National Front Party will, you know, not have the sort of stances that we will have. And Solonomics, yeah, but these guys are the representatives of capital. They are the representatives of the profiteers and the people who like the markets. The CEOs, right? And the corporations. And all that. Okay, we have 2 events here. Promising agricultural growth, that's kind of cool, but I don't necessarily care too much. But, like, look at this, there's so much information here to find. Population rank, GDP rank. It's very interesting. Let's go for the political situation. There's Peter. So I just had to have a drink of water. Peter Vector arrived a couple of minutes early and sat across from me. He was struggling to hold back a smile. We did it, Anton. We won, finally. All those games we played with the media paid off. Peter's eyes sparkled. The strain of the past months had put a damper on his usual rakish charm, but today he was looking and acting more like his old self. He loosened his tie and undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt. Enjoying, that's a universal sign of, I am now at ease, I guess, in our boring suit-wearing world. Enjoying the new secretary I picked out for you. Thought you'd appreciate her gorgeous set of talents. Oh, you dog, Peter. It's a shame the rest of your staff aren't as easy on the eyes. He gestured to the slight paunch that protruded over his waistband. But hey, back in university, did you ever imagine we would be sitting here in the Maroon Palace? We have to celebrate this great victory. We'll celebrate at the inaugural ball. Just hang in there until the evening. Looking forward to it. Evelyn hopes to congratulate you in person there. I'm sure the kids would love to see their Uncle Peter for the first time as vice president. If you haven't seen the demo or played the demo, stay tuned for the inaugural ball. It's really good. That is great to hear. It's crazy how fast the two have grown up. You're a good father. Peter had a wistful look in his eyes. He and Evelyn had never been able to have kids of their own. During our campaign, the opposition had floated the rumor that he'd fathered illegitimate children during his wilder years, but it had never been substantiated. The door swung open and Lucien Galat, chief strategist, walked in. He was a compact man with sharp, bird-like features. After briefly surveying the room from wall to wall, he sat down, poured a glass of water, and opened his briefcase in a series of quick, graceful movements. Gentlemen. The tall case clock in the room struck 3 o'clock. Damn, you're exactly on time. This guy, yeah, it's like a... Hello, Peter. Very slightly bowed his head. This guy's like, he's serious. He's serious business. Looks like he's got a mean old scar as well. It might just be wrinkles, I don't know. Lawyer. He was a lawyer, but I don't see any military stuff. Serving as an advisor to the Interior Minister during Tarkin Sol's last term as president. Glad to see you, Lucien. It is a privilege to be here. Spoke in soft, clipped tones that immediately drew your attention towards what he had to say. Peter and I waited for him to proceed. We'll start the meeting by evaluating the current situation. The majority of the Swedish people demand change. They are more concerned about the economy than the constitution, but they blame the system for their problems. People are losing their trust in our democracy. They expect us to bring the changes the last government did not. Of course, Franz Richter, leader of the reformists, believes that true change can only be done by transferring some of our powers to the Assembly. I will move to the details of their demands shortly. This guy is giving me Kennedy vibes. I did say this. I was going to rewrite the Constitution and stuff. I agree with the reformists. Our responsibility is to democratize our current broken system, and also this is not a problem for us right now because, so let's say you were, if I remember correctly, the amount of MPs, right? ministers in the parliament, or the assembly, or seats rather. We had 140. These guys have 75, right? And the National Front Party have 40, I think. Or did we have 130? Either way, we can easily get a majority if we just work with these guys. And since they are progressive and want, you know, some of the things we want at least, then maybe it's going to be easier to work with them. Or easier to, like, push our politics through, even if we create a system where we have less power, theoretically speaking. That's exactly what we campaigned for, a true change for the country to move forward. We'll need many allies against the old gods in the government. Mr. Richter managed to influence many members of the assembly to give their support for drafting a new constitution. Reformist politicians are quickly increasing in number. I am one of them. While the reformist wing inside our party is still a minority, they could have a tripartisan majority in the assembly, especially if they unite under Friends Richter. Mr. Richter could be a potential ally in our goal to maintain a majority in the assembly. He's definitely key in this, yeah, exactly. And that's also the thing, like, if he is promising stuff, or if he's like promising reforms or whatever, if he's promising populist policies, then we have to promise something better, or we have to highlight the same issues that he's talking about and stuff like that. They want to limit the president's veto powers, ensure that the Supreme Court is independent, and take away the right to vote on constitutional amendments. We must listen to their demands, otherwise we are no different from the previous administrations. I agree, it's better to not go against the wind of change that is raging around the country at this moment. The old gods will do their best to preserve the Constitution. Chief Justice Hawker and his allied judges have a great influence over the Supreme Court, which would be tough to break. The court also has an abrupt power over constitutional legislation. Without their approval, we cannot even change it. We'll need a comprehensive bill to balance the power structures more fairly. I agree, the old god won't like this though. Comprehensive reform that would make the reformists happy would mean maintaining a balance between all branches of the government, which means removing your absolute veto as well. Which is insane that the president would have an absolute veto. Reformists demand the loopholes of the constitution be fixed. Looks like we have many challenges ahead. It's also interesting, like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Our party sold 130 out of 250 seats, apparently. That is power. So it was 130. However, the reform constitution, we must receive a 2/3 majority, which is 166 votes, and a simple majority in the Supreme Court that equates to 6 votes. So that's, Supreme Court, I'm guessing then, is 11 people. After we have settled our thoughts on how to proceed, we will need to talk with our party figures. So the supermajority, or the 2/3 majority there, we can probably get that, but we will probably not have everyone in our party voting for us, or for the reforms, but I think the majority of the Freedom Party will vote for it. Following the green light from the USP, we'll reach out to the other party leaders to see if they would back our draft, and then the last step is to convince the justices of the court. The entire process will take a long time, but we must start working with the Reform Committee to evaluate all possibilities for a new constitution as soon as possible. We'll write a more democratic constitution with the reformists. It should give the president wide-ranging powers to lead Swordsland into the future. No. Could work with the old god to protect the existing extensive powers. No, we will write a new constitution with the reformists. People elected us because of the promise, or our promise, for democratic reforms. Yeah, so in this case, like, when this came up, I could have actually, like, just gone completely in the opposite direction. I could promise everything. I could, you know, bring up all these left-wing populist rhetorical, like, devices and stuff, and then just abandon it immediately, like most left-wing populists tend to do. The key thing here, and by the way, that's not me critiquing a political, like a side of the political spectrum, not at all. People who watched the demo series and probably have watched, like, other stuff that I've made, you know, other content and stuff, know where I stand. The key thing here will be strengthening the power of the assembly, which we already lead with a majority. Petr noted in agreement. Yes, the division of power need to be rebalanced for a better Swordsland. According to the initial draft we made with the reformists, there are 2 changes in the constitution that are not open for their discussion. First, the Supreme Court will no longer vote on constitutional amendments. Second, the president's absolute veto will be taken away. This can be replaced with a limited veto system by fixing the current loopholes. Sure, yeah. I have no problems with these clauses. Let's work with reformists. Yes, sir. So, I like the idea that the Supreme Court can't stop constitutional amendments, because constitutional amendments are what change the rights and stuff of the Supreme Court. So if the Supreme Court has the ability to give itself more power, then that is problematic, because the Supreme Court, as far as I can tell, is not democratically elected. The Assembly can give itself more power, because the Assembly has to be chosen by the people. We will form a reform committee together with all parties and start reaching out to all of the stakeholders in the Assembly and the Court for a new constitution. More information about the request of each party and reform contents will be available later this year. Thank you. Another important point, we must be aware of the Lothenberg Group. Yes, the oligarchs' revenue. Convene under this group to influence economic policies. Yeah, these guys are... they are shits. I don't like them. They are assholes. According to the report, some members of the National Business Council are in their pockets. They will surely try to bribe us for their special economic interests. I won't be bought. It won't happen. Lucian looked at Peter. As far as I know, Simon Hall has some ties to this group, and we may try using his influence if we deem it necessary. I'm aware of Mr. Hall's wide network. That will come in handy. We need to tread carefully on all sides with all power players in order to survive our term. Well then, gentlemen, precisely 30 minutes. This concludes the political briefing for today. Our next meeting will be about our media strategy. That one is going to be important, but it's going to happen in the next episode, because we're at the 30-minute marks. Thank you, or marks, Freudian slip. We're at the 30-minute mark, and or past it rather. So I want to say once again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, since it is an early video in the series, likes help a great deal, so if you click that like button, I really appreciate that. I read all the comments. I don't respond to all of them, but the ones I read, I leave a little heart to let you know that I've read it. That's it, I think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.